Hello, everybody, and welcome into the From the 50 Midweek Review. This is our off-season podcast, one of two off-season podcasts we have on the feed now, and we got a special guest today with us too, TJ Weber, who we haven't seen on the midweek show since the Super Bowl, is around to talk some shop with us. And if you haven't seen or listened to the midweek, the Monday morning show, definitely go and do that. It was awesome, really quick. You could listen to it while you're walking your dog, on your way to work, with your morning coffee, as I think TJ intended it to be listened to.
Absolutely.
So it's a really easy listen, and we just kicked it off this Monday. You can find it on our new From the 50 website, and we got it rolling, man.
Yeah, we're getting it going. It's the first one went good. I haven't done a show by myself in a while. It's been a long time coming. You know, we talked about it since, I guess, January. We decided to kind of take the football brand into another level, and we'll see. I mean, I honestly was pretty happy with the first show. I'm not gonna lie, I did a couple takes because I'm so used to bouncing off somebody. It's just a way easier to do.
It's a different ball game, isn't it?
Oh my god,
it's weird.
That's the thing, man. I'm not to brag. I was on the radio when I was 20 years old, but holy shit, I was completely
to brag.
Dude, when I was like,
it's not a big deal, dude. It's not a big deal.
Not a big deal at all. I listened to one of my shows back when I was 20. I sound like a nervous, like, weasel. It's like, okay, oh, well, Albert Pujols and the Cardinals, I really wish he would have stayed. It's like, holy shit, just take a breath for one second.
So you still have some of your stuff from, like, when you first started?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I don't know if I do anymore. And I used to have, like, some stuff, like, at WJBC, like, my radio internship.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could even find that anymore. But, yeah, I listened to it before I had lost it, like, a couple years ago. And it was so embarrassing. Like, yeah. I don't understand how, like, the people that were mentoring me kept a straight face.
I'm waiting for the day that
say you should probably maybe just go into sales, guy.
I think there was a time when I thought I was really good and I was really not, and it was hilarious to, like, look back and go, man, I remember how I kind of had, like, a little cocky walk going on, like, oh, I'm on the radio. I'm 20 years old. Okay, and I fucking brokered time. I paid to be on the air. I still thought I was a big deal. But it's crazy how far you've come. Like, I'm sitting there, like, cringing at everything I'm saying. Like, I'm doing an interview with have you ever seen Impractical Jokers? I think we've talked about that.
Oh, yes.
Great show.
Which one did you get to interview?
I interviewed Q. So I didn't know it worked this way. So I actually contacted him. This is 2015, and I contacted their manager, and I'm like, hey, I would love to get one of the Jokers on. And I thought I was going to be able to pick. And my favorite one's Joe by far. He's just the funniest one, I think. And I wanted him or Sal. Well, of course, I get Q, which I was fine with. They had an upcoming show, though. They wanted to plug it on the air. And I got the interview, and I was fucking nervous, man. I mean, to a point where, I've come a long way, let's say that. I was at a point where I was just fanboying the whole time. Like, oh, well, remember that it was like a Chris Farley show bit. Remember that little thing you guys did with the alligator? That was awesome. It's like not even a fucking question. It's like, it's just like a comment. I was just such a fanboy. It's like, God, you're a loser. It's like, what are you doing? So
I think everybody in media has had those moments before. Like, for me, and I'll never forget it, it was Rick Ankiel. I had to go. I was at that same radio internship. And to be honest, like, my sports guy just threw me to the effing wolves. Like, he just sent me to this benefit. They were doing, like, a Legends game in Normal for, like, an independent league team. And it was like a thing they were putting on. And they were doing an autograph signing. And he sent me, he's like, well, they got Bill Buckner there, Lee Smith, Rick Ankiel's going to be there. So, like, go grab a couple interviews and then we can play them on the air and on like the news. Cause they did like really like quick hitters. So I was like, okay. So I show up there. The general manager of this particular team, by the way, was the biggest asshole, like, of all time.
You want to bet I got a bigger one? I'm not going to tell you who it is.
I feel like I already
kind of just did if anybody knows where I used to work.
Yeah, I kind of already know what you're going to say. But this guy he was like on that level. Like, just, the guy must have thought he was running the freaking Yankees the way, like, he kind of, he just wasn't a very nice dude.
Yeah.
So he would not let me in before the fans to conduct the interviews. And so I'm like trying to get interviews while these guys are trying to be like nice to the community and like sign autographs and stuff. And I'm asking them for interviews. So Rick Ankiel was not like set up at a station. He was actually like kind of just floating around. So it was really easy for me to kind of like grab him and ask him a couple questions. And he was super nice. But it was like 3 minutes. I didn't really know what to say. I was so embarrassed. I didn't even want to send it to the station. I was so like awestruck and just didn't have any idea what to do. And from that point forward, I've never really gotten like that, starstruck again, just because I just remember that feeling of being like, dude, like they're just people.
They're just people. You know? Yeah.
They're just people.
Same thing.
And you're going to be more embarrassed and they're going to think you're a bigger jackwagon if you do a terrible job and ask a bunch of dumbass questions than if you just stay in your mind, like think like analytically about what you're going to ask and how it's going to come off on the air. So like that's always helped me now in the future. But I absolutely know the feeling.
Did you ever have anybody like that wasn't, so I've interviewed, or I've at least talked to like major league players, like professional players, like been there before, and they seem like the coolest guys in the world. Have you ever had anybody that's like not on that level, that's a professional, but they're like, okay, independent league baseball? You ever had anybody like stand you up for an interview or like big time you because they thought they were a big deal, but they were in independent league baseball?
I don't think I can count the times I've been big timed in my life. Normally, it's not like, it's not like players really, or like people I was trying to like talk to. Like if I had a prearranged or like thing set up, normally everybody's pretty cool. Are you talking about like people like being like a dick in the interview?
No,
like acting like they're too good for you, or like not showing up, or like not being interested?
I had a guy that thought he was fucking Albert Pujols or something, and he sat there. He was an independent league baseball pitcher. His ERA was about 6.45 in the fucking independent league. He's a reliever. God awful. So I had this bit I had. I'm not going to say the name of the guy. I was with the Grizzlies. Pretty obvious if you know independent league. There's a team in St. Louis. There you go. But I was doing an interview.
They played, I think, in the same league, by the way, as the Corn Belters, which is the team I was referring to.
The normal Corn Belters. I do remember.
I didn't work for the Corn Belters, but like I worked for the station, so from time to time we'd have to go cover them and do stuff.
Yeah, so you know the Grizzlies well from the normal Corn Belters. That's so funny. I never thought I'd hear that team name again in my life.
Yeah, the Corn Belters. I don't think I'm not totally sure they exist. They definitely don't in terms of independent league. I think it's like a collegiate team now.
Yeah, they might have changed. You're right. So. But again, this is independent league ball, like guys that are either getting their last chance to play professional ball, or it's like college players getting their first chance. So this kid was like 25. I guess I'm, what was it? I was 23 at the time. And I've been doing these interviews with these guys, and no big deal. They're all nice and helpful. Well, the one kid, I go, hey, I'll meet you down at the dugout at 1:30. And he goes, all right, sounds good. And I get down there at 1:30, and he's not there. I'm like, okay, no big deal. 1:35. Still not there. Gets to be about 1:45, and I'm like, I think I got stood up. Like, I think we're at a point where I might have got big timed here. So eventually, the clubhouse manager, actually one of my buddies from home, he came down and he's like, yeah, he's not coming down. I'm like, what do you mean he's not coming down? And they said, well,
he's got to prepare to walk 3 and give up 5 runs across 2/3 of an inning.
He really needs to get in his space 4 hours before the game, giving up 4 runs in the inning, right? So he goes, he's not coming because he thought you were going to come down there and get him. I go, I told him to meet me at the dugout. He said yes. He goes, I don't know, but when he thought you were 5 minutes late, he goes, I'm out. I can't do it. I don't have enough time for this. You're a fucking independent league baseball player, you dickwad. Like, what an asshole. And that was the first time.
Was he a reliever too, TJ?
Oh, yeah, sure he was. He never got a damn start in his career. He sucked. He walked like 3 batters a game, and a couple guys went yaya on his ass, and I was so happy calling the home run too. Like a little bit
no.
I was doing play-by-play, had a little bit of spunk in me, when someone jacked a 2-run shot over left center field on his ass. I go, that one's back. It's gone. Oh, baby, that was hit a fucking mile. I didn't say fucking, but it's like a little bit of extra motivation on that,
I don't know what it is about baseball. I was an official scorer for a short season A-ball team affiliated with the Marlins. I got cussed out by Brett Boone, who was working for a visiting team, because I gave one of our guys a hit instead of making it an error. So their prospect got charged with an earned run on a game. I mean, we lost by 12 runs in this game. It wasn't even close. Did not matter at all. But yeah, I got called down there and cussed out in the locker room.
There you go.
I mean, that's a story though. You could say you got cussed out by Brett Boone.
That guy's at least like gone on to like have a ton of success, and now he literally manages the Yankees.
No, that's Aaron Boone. This is his brother
Boone.
Brett.
Oh, Mariners Boone.
If Tolly would have got cussed out by Aaron Boone, he would have been like, this motherfucker is coaching the best team in the world.
If he would have been cussing me out, I would have told him just go play basketball in the parking lot so he could tear his ACL again.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait. Aaron Boone
do you not know
ACL?
this story?
No.
Brett Boone.
Oh, Brett Boone tore his ACL.
No, Aaron Boone.
I'm really confused about all the Boones right now.
That's how the Yankees ended up with A-Rod, is because Aaron Boone was playing pickup basketball in the offseason and tore his ACL and couldn't play the upcoming year. So they shipped him out of town and brought in A-Rod.
Well, there you go.
I didn't know that either.
I don't think I knew that story.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Well,
contrary to what this introduction may think, we're going to talk some football. That was fun, though. It's always good. I always love.
It's my fault. I always take it off the rails. I apologize every time I'm on the show.
Reflecting back on broadcasting stories and like asking people about theirs, because it is just such a unique business.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And such a weird, like, you will just encounter so much stuff across your time. Like, I have done I've gotten like some awesome opportunities to do some stuff, and I have interviewed like the director of the youth lacrosse league of Bloomington Normal, like, and had to ask him about how the sport's up and coming and all that stuff. So like you meet some characters, that's for sure. But,
yeah, for sure.
Guys, there was a huge contract that went down. Skip Bayless is staying at Fox Sports for 4 years and $31 million. No, I'm just kidding.
Wild.
Dak Prescott avoids the franchise tag, and he gets a 4-year extension to become a Cowboy. Not a Cowboy for life, but he gets 4 years, $160 million, 126 guaranteed, which, don't necessarily quote me on this one, I'm pretty sure it's the highest amount of guaranteed dollars in the history of the NFL. And my gut reaction to this is why? I don't really understand it, especially given the fact that the Cowboys waited so long to do this. I don't think that this deal made much sense for them at all. And if you've listened to the midweek review in weeks past, we've talked about the Dak Prescott situation. And for me, I had always kind of given the Cowboys a little bit of credit for waiting. You're seeing these guys get these extensions after the third year, these first round quarterbacks. Now, Dak's not a first rounder, so he doesn't have that fifth year of control. But you're seeing these guys get these extensions after year 3. Patrick Mahomes being one of them, and Patrick Mahomes being kind of an outlier. Yeah, you extend him after year 3. But like, if I'm a GM, I'm not extending Josh Allen. I'm not extending Lamar Jackson. I'm not extending some of these guys after their third year because there's no point to it. Like, why don't you just play it out? We have seen recent examples of Carson Wentz and now Jared Goff, and I don't understand how the Cowboys, who have seen this happen in their own division, can now commit to this. And what did they win in the negotiation? Like, did they just kind of flinch? Because not only did Dak Prescott get a ton of money, a ton of guaranteed money, it's a 4-year deal, which is going to expire when he's 31 years old, and they're going to have to do it again. He's on the Kirk Cousins track of making money. And Tolly had the stat last week where he was just criminally underpaid through his first, I think, 3 years in the league.
$4 million so far.
That's he made, I think, $30 million on the franchise tag last year, close to ballpark. He made $35 million off the field last year, too. He has made like close to $70 million just in last year alone. And he still is able to get the security of a long-term deal after coming off of a huge ankle injury. So I'm interested to hear you guys' take on it. I don't see what the Cowboys won here. I feel like if they were hesitant to give this money at the beginning, because this is what he wanted. And if the Cowboys were hesitant to give this money, which clearly they were, they would have offered this last year. I don't understand why they would give it now with the salary cap going down and with a bunch of uncertainty lying ahead.
Yeah, I'm shocked that he got this much, and you even throw in the injury part of it. I mean, I expected him to have a full recovery, but he's still fighting, that recovery coming back. You give him $160 million over 4 years, which, to be honest, as we mentioned, I talked about it on the Monday Morning Rush this week, saying that he hasn't taken them anywhere. I mean, they've been competitive, but they've been fighting for playoff spots with him. They've been unable to get to even the NFC Championship. Zeke's kind of going down a little bit. Like, they got all these receivers for him. They're trying to amp it up on offense. Got still a great offensive line. But I'm shocked that they gave him this amount. And I don't know why, but with the way Jerry Jones runs his team, I mean, it was almost a certain for me that they would take a look at Russell Wilson. And maybe they did. Maybe we have no idea what they did behind closed doors. They could have been reaching out, and the asking price was crazy high for Seattle. But I mean, there was a PFF tweet they had, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, that said, a hypothetical, would you do this? Russell Wilson straight up for Dak. Absolutely, I would. 100%.
If you're who?
If the Cowboys.
100%. For the Cowboys.
Yeah, I would take, if that's a straight up trade, 100%. It was a hypothetical. Probably wouldn't happen in real life. But I just don't, I mean, Dak's a good quarterback. I just don't see him being $160 million over 4 years worth it, and he's still got a lot of question marks. And Jerry's putting everything into Dak Prescott for his future. And I'm happy for him because after everything that happened when he had, getting carted off the field, tears in his eyes with his leg in shambles, it was devastating because you felt for the guy because technically it was a little bit of a risk, not really his risk, but he got franchise tagged. And we all thought he was going to get screwed. We didn't know how the injury was going to be, especially after you see Alex Smith, everything he went through wasn't that serious, but at the time, not really sure what was going to happen. So now you sit there and you see him get a big deal. You're happy for him in that instance. But at the same time, if you're the Cowboys, number one, what's the rush on giving him that amount of money as you're mentioning? And what's the upside, as Zook said? That's the number one point is why did you rush it now when you waited this long to do it? You could have done it last year or like you said, or at the beginning of last season, and you didn't. Now you get to this point and now you rush it, and it seems like you didn't have a great negotiation because I don't think the Cowboys would started saying, here's 160 for 4 years. I don't think that was their number. I think that was his number, and they just agreed to it. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm all over the place, but with the cap space, the Cowboys are saying they're going for it. They're saying that Dak is their guy going forward. I'm happy for him, but I don't know if it's the right move for Dallas. So we'll have to see. Not sure.
Since you guys hit on a lot of the main points, I'm going to kind of spin this the other way. Look at it a good way. What the Cowboys did right with this is, so technically his deal is 6 years, but the last 2 are voided. So he's only going to be there for 4 years. So they spread that cap number out a long time, and they front loaded his entire signing bonus. So at least towards the end, if he's not good, they can cut him, and they're not going to have these dead cap numbers like Carson Wentz and Jared Goff are in the $30+ million.
Yeah,
and they've kind of
kept
that salary cap number closer to $30 million a year than the $40 million, which is huge.
Because they front-loaded his signing bonus, Tolly? Is that what you're saying?
That, and the way the cap charge works is that it's the average per the year. So since it technically is a 6-year deal, they spread that guaranteed money out through 6 years. Just the last 2 are voided.
Yeah, if it's I don't understand that, though. So could you explain, like, maybe to the listeners, too, why are they reporting it as a 4-year deal then? Even if those 2 years are voided, like, wonder if they want to extend him because, like we mentioned, he's only going to be, 31 when that deal is up.
It'll work the same way Brady's did his last contract with the Patriots. Remember, they signed him to like a 3-year deal technically, but they had voided a couple years, so everyone just reported it as a 1-year deal because he'd be a free agent at the end of it anyway.
Oh, so basically the Patriots still had him as a cap number for this year. Just the contract is voided. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
So how much is he making? I heard a crazy number. I want to make sure I heard it right. $75 million this year. Is that right? Dak Prescott?
That's what he got this year if you include his entire signing bonus, which was like $60 million or something crazy.
Still though, holy shit.
Yeah,
it's insane.
On top of what he made last year, which was, if you factor in his off-the-field endorsements, close to $70 million, which is the whole reason that I felt like the Cowboys were in a bit of a position of leverage because of their brand and because of the earning potential off the field. Not to mention the fact that the team is really good.
I mean, so the thing is, Zook, sorry to cut you off real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you think it is? I mean, I think $160 million to Dak Prescott just because the guy hasn't proven much yet. as far as like winning a championship is crazy to me. But if you look at, I know it's a different tier, but Mahomes gets like half a bill for 10. It kind of seems like maybe in that instance the Cowboys got a deal, but at the same time, like I don't know if I'm just off on this because Mahomes is in another level. We know that, but he got
like 5 tiers above him,
$500 million for 10 years, and he got 160 for 4. So I think it's overpaid still, but like I don't know if the way that the market's going for NFL quarterbacks, and Tali brought this up too, and I'm sure we'll mention this later on. Josh Allen's like chomping at the bit now. Like,
oh
shit, I love this.
If you're Josh Allen
or
Lamar Jackson's agent, Lamar Jackson's won an MVP. Josh Allen just went to the AFC Championship, both things which Dak has never sniffed. And they got to be thinking, just laughing, like running down the street naked, yelling, like they're going to make so much money.
That wouldn't be unheard of in Buffalo.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be. But that's, I mean, and that's why I just, from a football sense, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. And Jerry has always had the mantra that he doesn't mind paying a premium for a premium. But in this case, I don't think he is paying a premium for a premium. I think he's paying a premium for something that is good and solid. And so I don't know if his age has something to do with it. They know what Dak Prescott is. The devil you know is always better than the devil you don't, to use a cliche. And with you got to think about Jerry in his life. Like how much longer is he going to be here? And he clearly would love to win a Super Bowl before he checks out. And so maybe like we don't want to pay Dak this much money. We feel like we can't build a roster long term. I think he's thinking more year to year than 3 to 5 years, which is a dangerous thing to do when you're in upper management. But I think that that's part of what this is. Jerry Jones also historically has done deals in the NFL that have pissed off other GMs and owners because he's given people so much money. The Zeke Elliott contract just completely reset the market for running backs. And now this is going to reset the market for quarterbacks. Like, as we mentioned, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Like if you're the Ravens GM, or if you're who's the Bills GM? Brandon Beane. If you're Brandon Beane, if I was Brandon Beane waking up reading that news, I would be livid that Jerry Jones handed out the contract he did to Dak Prescott, because it is like a renegade deal, and he's been kind of known for making these. In this case, however, I just feel as though he offered, an insane contract to a player that I view as a borderline top third of the league quarterback. Now, when you think about that, it's like only 11 teams, right? Like, are in the top third. So I feel like I could get about close to 11 names that are better than Dak Prescott. Like, even
we've done
like,
this before. Who'd you do this with before? It was it Dak?
Can't remember. It might have been Lamar Jackson.
I think it was Lamar.
All right, we got to name him now. We got to do it. You got to name 11.
I'm just saying, like in this rookie class alone, like you'd rather have Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert over Dak. Like it's not even debatable.
That's a take. I'm just saying, like I don't disagree with you, but that is a take. Like I think a lot of people truly love Dak Prescott. Like I think they think he's just as good as Russell Wilson.
I love Dak Prescott.
To me,
too.
he's not. The rings say he's not, and the playoff appearances says he's not. But straight up ability, people might say he's just as good. I don't know.
I love Dak Prescott, and I think he's a good quarterback. Like I think it's tough sometimes. Like it feels like you have to get on the fence, one side or the other, of like he's an MVP or he's terrible. I think he's a good quarterback, and he could be the quarterback on my team any day of the week, just not for $40 million a year. So, that's more my issue with it. And just the fact that I do think that those other guys are better. I don't think that's really necessarily even a hot take. It's just, to steal another cliche, some guys are tractors and some guys are trailers. And is Dak a tractor? Is he going to pull the team, or is he going to need to be pulled? He has been pulled by a really good roster. He's got Zeke Elliott. He's got all those offensive linemen. He's got Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. He had Jason Witten at the start of his career, and they have a really good defense. And now the defense doesn't always perform. And here's the other problem with the contract. I mean, honestly, do you feel like you have a coach that can overcome roster deficiencies? Because this is the other thing that you have to consider. When you give a guy this much money, the roster will get worse. Like I've seen it my entire life, first with Brett Favre and now with Aaron Rodgers. The roster will have holes. you only get these elite teams when quarterbacks are on somewhat friendly deals. Like Tom never takes the money he's worth because the teams can be so much better when he doesn't do that. But there are some guys that can overcome that. Patrick Mahomes is one of those. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, those are the guys. Now, maybe there's some other guys coming along that can do that as well. Maybe Josh Allen develops into one of those guys. But we saw it with Jared Goff, and we have seen it with Carson Wentz. They can't carry the team when they have that much of the percent of the cap going into their wallets, because then you're not going to have as good of an offensive line. You're not going to have as many offensive weapons. You're going to have to score more points per game because your defense isn't that good. And I don't think Dak Prescott can do that. And I don't think that that's necessarily even like a knock on him. Like there's only like the truly elite dudes can do that. And I don't think Dak Prescott is in that category. And I don't think he has the upside to develop into that category because he already played for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, he definitely doesn't have any more excuses now. I mean, like you're saying, they've not only surrounded him with Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, but then they go out and draft CeeDee Lamb, who has shown that he's going to be pretty talented in the league.
Didn't even mention him. But yeah, he's got CeeDee Lamb too.
Right. I'm saying, like, he's set. I mean, he's got everything he needs there. If Zeke can pull his head out of his ass, I mean, honestly, though, Pollard keeps playing the way he is, they could just do a running back by committee and be fine. But I think Zeke will figure it out. So you got everything you need. If Prescott can't win them, a championship, it's going to be, first of all, people are going to blame Mike McCarthy for the first year. If they don't if somehow they go 8-8 or something, or barely make the playoffs or miss it, it's going to be McCarthy's fault. Then if McCarthy gets fired in year 2 and they still don't do anything, or they get to the first round of the playoffs and lose, it's going to be on Dak's head. It will be because it's Dallas.
It comes with the territory, man.
Right.
Like the second you sign that extension, you get viewed in a different light. Like Kirk Cousins isn't a terrible quarterback, but because of the money he makes, everybody shits on him.
Well, and think about that. That's a Minnesota Vikings franchise. Like they're great fans. This is the Dallas Cowboys.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's another level. It's like playing in New York. It's like being a Yankee. Tolly knows how that works with Yankee fans. I mean, you better win. That's what you're supposed to do. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It's just, and the reason I brought up McCarthy and the coaching staff is because, like, I think part of the reason the Rams were comfortable giving Goff the extension he did is because they felt like he had done enough under the tutelage of Sean McVay to overcome the roster deficiencies. They believed in the coaching staff. And so they believe that, therefore, the coach could cover up some of those warts. Now, with the Cowboys, I just don't think you get one or the other. I don't think Dak can do it, and I don't think the coaching staff can do it. So I just think that, when these young players, like, you have to consider that. And that's why I mentioned Jerry Jones thinking year to year is dangerous, because you have to always think 3 to 5 years out. Now, when CeeDee Lamb's contract comes up, assuming he's going to be the player we think he is, you can't re-sign him. You can't re-sign your corner, Chidobe Awuzie. You can't re-sign Leighton Vander Esch. You can't work out long-term deals for some of these studs that you're going to acquire, and you're not going to have money to go get somebody else off the free agent market. And assuming that the team is going in the direction you want, you're not going to have very high picks. So I just think that when you give out that contract, you have to be positive that he is an elite ass kicker, and I just don't think Dak is that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, I'm pissed because I'm the offseason of crazy quarterback moves, as I mentioned on Monday. I was hoping that we'd see Dak Prescott in another uniform just to shake things up, just to really make things fucking crazy.
And I got to tell you, I thought it was going to happen. That's why I've been saying I think the Dak story is going to be the biggest thing of the offseason, because it felt like the Cowboys were like, no, we're not. You're not worth that. Yeah. And they were going to go let him see what he could go find and see if they could maybe facilitate some sort of trade with him, or see if he wanted to hold out. So, it is interesting, though.
I'm telling you, when Wilson named the Cowboys as one of the teams, I was saying it's going to be Bears or Cowboys to get Wilson if he does get traded. And I was like, I think Jerry's going to just go for it here. And I was shocked that didn't happen, or there wasn't more rumblings. It could have been talked about, behind closed doors, but I feel like we would have heard something more about that. So,
well, and that's a good segue into our next topic, which is Russell Wilson, which we have neglected to cover so far on this show. We were just busy with other stuff. And to be honest with you, I didn't think there was a whole lot of smoke to the fire at first, and it just feels so far off in the distance that it felt like there were other more pressing things that were interesting and intriguing to me. But I think that TJ, you hit the nail on the head on your Monday show, and you echoed some things that I've already thought about the situation reading the story, and that's that I think Russell Wilson definitely wants to be traded, but he's afraid to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been like that throughout his career, always very reserved, always gives you coach speak. And it's kind of one of the reasons I've never been the biggest Russell Wilson guy. I think he makes a lot of mistakes that he gets like forgiveness for on the field, but off the field, I don't know like how what I think of him like as necessarily a teammate. Not saying he's like a bad teammate, but like I appreciate authenticity, and so he is just the complete opposite of that. Like, he doesn't give you anything in interviews. He doesn't ever speak a word of truth to the media. And you read the stories back when they had the Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and all them, Pete Carroll had to tell them to quit being mean to Russell Wilson because his feelings were getting hurt because they were abusing him in practice so much. Yeah. Like, I just don't jive with that. And so I think that he's trying to play both sides of the fence. Be like, oh, I wouldn't be open to get traded, but I love Seattle. Like, he doesn't want to be the bad guy to the Seahawks fans. Whereas I appreciate Deshaun's like, this is a dumpster fire. Get me out. I want out. And 100%. I don't think anybody would really care. Maybe it's a little different in Russell's situation. I think Deshaun has a hell of a lot more reason to want out than Russell does. He plays for one of the most successful organizations in the NFL right now with Pete Carroll, John Schneider, and the operation they have going. But if he wants out, I mean, he's his own man. He can do whatever the hell he wants. But it's like, I kind of want to be traded. I'm going to give you these four teams. That's like, realistically, none of that was ever going to take place. Like, the Cowboys weren't going to get you. The Bears have nothing to offer the Seahawks, and neither do the Saints. Because if you're the Seattle Seahawks, you can trade Russell Wilson, but you can't just like treat it like well, we'll just figure it out. Like, he's the best player in the history of the franchise. Like, if you trade him to the Raiders, you're getting Derek Carr back. If you trade him to like the Jets, you're getting the number 2 pick.
Wait, Sean Alexander? I'm trying to think of another Seahawk since you said that.
Not even close.
Marshawn Lynch.
Marshawn Lynch. Close. Really?
When you factor in like the position he plays and like just how good he's been for them. I mean, he won them a Super Bowl.
Why do you hate Matt Hasselbeck? Yeah, I don't like to hate for Matt Hasselbeck.
It's I'm a big Matty Ice guy also.
Charlie Whitehurst didn't do anything to you. What the hell?
I think there's more to this story than what like the media is just reporting. I think the bigger issue is that Russell's seeing these guys like Dak Prescott get these new deals, and they are getting paid way more than he is right now. And he's pissed that he's not getting paid highly and he's not being protected. He's on the whole, if I'm on a team-friendly deal, I want everything around me to win, and we're not there. You won't listen to me when I tell you who I want. So either pay me, fix it, or send me out.
The thing is, too, it's so weird how the way he answered the question, as I mentioned, he's like, I want to be in Seattle, but if you were going to trade me to these 4 teams. But he's the one that first brought it up. It wasn't like Seattle's like, we're trading you.
I want out, but I don't want to be the bad guy.
Because
say I want
out. The first thing he said was like,
just a clown move.
100%. It doesn't make any sense because he like played it off as the Seahawks are trying to trade him. That's not what's happening. He wanted out first. It sounds like, unless he's been told something different. We just don't know that part. But he's like, yeah, if you're going to trade me. But no, I still want to be in Seattle. He's covering it. He's basically telling the fans, like, don't be pissed at me. So when I do end up staying, like, everybody fucking hates me.
Which I just cannot get behind. Like, I don't know, man. Like, he is just the opposite of a lot of principles that I hold. So I think that's maybe why I'm not the biggest Russ guy.
I mean, again, though,
I'll be the first to tell you, best player in the history of the franchise, elite top 5 quarterback.
Do you think he will demand a trade at one point? Do you think this keeps escalating? And then what do you percentage that he actually gets traded? What do you think?
I think it's better than 50% at this point.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask this question. Who do you think's gone first, him or Pete Carroll?
Russ.
Wow. Because that's the other thing they could do. If the beef really is between him and Pete Carroll, Pete's up there in age, they could ship him out.
Pete's bring in a new head coach. You don't do that to a living legend.
So
best coach in the history of the franchise.
Isn't he more pissed off at the front office, I thought, because they weren't, because
I think he's just at odds with the organization. Yeah. But like John Schneider and Pete Carroll are thick as thieves, and like it's a high level operation that they have there in Seattle. I mean, I have a ton of respect for what they've been able to accomplish and what they've been able to do. Like, and let's not pretend like Russell Wilson carried them on his back to a Super Bowl. They had the Legion of Boom, which is the best defense I've seen since the '85 Bears. I think that the Von Miller Denver defense potentially had an argument, but like when they played Denver in the Super Bowl that year and just boat raced them, KJ Wright, I think, got the Super Bowl MVP. Like that defense was unstoppable. And they had beast mode in the backfield, who is like, I don't know if he's going to be a Hall of Famer or not, but like on just like what I saw, that dude was freaking elite. So like they had built the thing around Russell before he, really started taking them to new heights. And he deserves certainly a ton of credit for it. But I don't think that John Schneider and Pete Carroll are going to be done anytime soon. I think it's a much higher likelihood that Russ is gone.
He is very old. He could retire after this 1 year. And if they keep Russ and he plays out his contract, then he's there longer.
Is he in his mid-70s?
Something like that.
Well, I think
he's a lot older than he looks.
Yeah.
But I think John Schneider is like of the same, they're again, like on the same wavelength, like TJ was saying, like if you remove Pete, but John's there, I don't think it resolves the problem at all because John's just going to hire somebody else that thinks like them. And he's still not going to be happy.
Well, and what do they do? What does Seattle do if they trade Russ? Like it's
a sticky situation because if I'm a Seattle fan, I'm really pissed off.
Right.
I don't want to see Russell
because everybody's talking about Wilson, and for good reason, is talking about Wilson and like what he's going to end up doing and where he could end up. But what happens if Seattle trades him? Like they don't have a quarterback, so that's
why I think that the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints are not realistic landing spots for him
because they can't trade anybody. Because isn't Mitch a free agent? He's not even on contract right now.
And even if he was,
it's not. No, then that's not going to be straight up. It would have been a ton more. But I'm saying like
they don't even want him
behind center.
They don't even want him.
Right.
Like, they need a quarterback back. Like when you were saying like Russell for Dak and like a first round pick in like 2021. Like that's like what they'd be wanting to do now. Like that's why I think that Seattle eventually it's going to have to say like Russ, are you in or are you out, man? Because if the guy leaves, like as a front office, like. What can you do if the guy says, I want to be traded?
Right.
But until he demands it, I wouldn't deal him. I'd put the feelers out there for sure. Well, and Russ is controlling the narrative with his whole camp, shadow government, leaking stories to the Seattle Times and doing all sorts of shit. So, like, he's controlling his own narrative anyways. So, but if you're like Pete Carroll and John Schneider, like if he comes to you and says, I want to be traded, then you say, okay, well, do you actually want to be traded? And are you okay with going to Miami or New York or one of these other teams and we can play ball? We can't, this little phony fucking list that you gave us of like 3 or 4 teams, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and
I think that's eventually what's going to happen because if you are Seattle, TJ, and to answer your question, they have to get something back. You can't just say, well, we'll figure it out. We'll deal Russ. We'll get a bunch of assets back and we'll figure it out. You cannot do that to the best quarterback you've ever had, probably the best player in the history of the franchise. Like you cannot deal him in his prime and not get like a good competitive quarterback back and just say, oh, well, we're going to kind of blow it up with build the team back up with a bunch of picks. Like I think a realistic landing spot for him, honestly, would potentially be the Raiders.
Yeah.
Because you could get Derek Carr back, who I think is a suitable quarterback for sure. I think that the Jets or the Dolphins make a ton of sense.
Isn't Carr a free agent, unrestricted?
No, don't believe so.
I thought he was.
He's there. Gruden's just Gruden and doesn't like him.
Yeah,
which Gruden. It's ridiculous that he has 7 years still left with them. I don't know if he makes it all 7.
No.
So when did he not? I thought that was one of the main
loans that he does not make it.
Oh, 2022. Got it. That's when he's supposed to be a free agent. I think that's when his contract's supposed to be up.
So, I mean, and if you're Seattle then too, like you get a guy like Derek Carr, I don't know what his agent would want, but like,
or they could get Mariota.
Not going to get, Dak money, you wouldn't think. Like it's a more cost controllable asset. And so you can still get serviceable quarterback play. But yeah, I think something like that is what they'd have to do to trade Russell.
Imagine
or
being
or you trade for a quarterback like you trade for a pick like the Dolphins or the Jets, so that way you can take an elite rookie QB.
They're in a spot though. Either way, I mean, if Russell's that unhappy, first of all, if he stays and they don't trade him and they don't talk him off the ledge or whatever, his teammates are gonna be pissed off. Like, what the fuck? Like, we were buying in. And then on the other side, you're right. If they trade Russell and then they don't have a viable quarterback to at least fill the gap for a year, if you're DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, you're like, what the fuck, man? I mean, like,
get me the fuck out of here.
We are a great offense for the first half of the year.
I just think his like teammate, like he's just questionable. Like the evidence is in. The Richard Sherman and all those guys hated him. He was soft. And his teammates have got to be like, well, what the fuck, dude? Like, you want out? You don't want to play with us? You want to leave? Like, we were good last year. We were we were projected. You were projected to win an MVP, and we were projected to like win the NFC through the first month and a half of the season. So I do understand his frustration though, from the fact of, all these guys are getting, big deals. And it doesn't feel like Seattle is really a Super Bowl contender. They're solid. They make the playoffs every year, but they're one and done every time.
Yep.
And they have really kind of lost that Super Bowl window. But I think they were Super Bowl contenders every year for a good 5-year window. Like, that's just kind of the way it goes in the league. Like, for all those years the Packers had Aaron Rodgers, like, you always had the chance, because if you just sneak into the playoffs, you never know what could happen. And the Packers won one with Aaron Rodgers as a wild card team, made it to the NFC Championship as a 6th seed against the Falcons back in 2016. And so, like, you're always, have a seat at the dance table if you can just get there. But I do understand, like, his frustration. And I don't even fault him for wanting out. Like, if you want out, like, I don't blame you, dude. You're sick of playing in Seattle for, not a big market. You want to go somewhere else, like, get more money. That's totally your decision.
Yeah.
My entire issue with it is just, I think he's underrating the situation he is in, because he is playing for an elite organization that has their head on their shoulders and knows how to win. And if he goes to the Raiders, like, in this example or hypothetical, like, is that really better for him? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I think there's part of that. And then I just think that he'd just come out and say it. If you want to be traded, say you want to be traded.
I'd love to see him in Chicago. I know that it's probably not possible, but it just fits, it just does. That really great defense they've had. They got Allen Robinson coming back on franchise tag. They've got a decent duo at running back now. With Montgomery having a decent year. Cohen was hurt all last season, but you got pieces there. And you got to
even make Russ's contract worth with Khalil Mack and Robinson on the franchise tag. That's my question.
See, I haven't seen anybody talk about that part. It's just been talking about
I just have never even took that as a realistic landing spot for him, because think of it from Seattle's perspective. What can Chicago offer Seattle for Russell Wilson? Because
I don't know.
I don't know if I want their pick. I don't think they pick high enough. And especially the only pick I know about is the one they have this year. And if I trade him Russell, they shouldn't be picking any higher than they were with Trubisky.
Right.
So those assets don't really mean a whole lot to me. Plus, again, if I'm trading Russell, I gotta get the guy. I gotta get the next guy, either with that transaction or be in position to do so at the draft or in free agency. And so I just don't know what Chicago can offer Seattle, because they're just they don't have any assets to give back to him.
So what do you think they're going to do?
The 20th overall pick is where they're at. That would be their first round pick that they could trade.
20th this year?
That's not even close. Like, I need the 2 or the 3 or the third overall pick. Like, I need that Jets or the Dolphins pick. Like, I need something to where I can get the next quarterback. If I love Zach Wilson, I need to get to number 2 to get Zach Wilson to be okay with trading Russell.
So the Bears would have to probably, I think, trade up into the top 5, which I don't see it happening. But they'd either trade up in the top 5 to get a guy or to get a pick to trade for Wilson. But that's a lot of moves. I mean, I don't see that happening. Zook, what do you think actually happens with them at quarterback? What do the Bears do at quarterback? Like, do they try to get Darnold? Like, do they?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I really
have no
don't.
idea.
And Ryan Pace has done his little media day. They're not saying anything. The longer it goes on, it feels like they may bring back Mitch on like a 1-year deal, like just a cheap, like, because he'd be so cheap and nobody else wants him.
Wasting that defense. They're just wasting.
So
it's crazy.
You could do that, or it's not re-sign him to like compete for the job and be the backup if you want. But I don't see many options out there for them because they couldn't get the deal done with Wentz. There aren't that many more. I don't think quarterback dominoes to fall. They have no shot to get Russell Wilson. Do they even want Sam Darnold? Does Chicago want Sam Darnold? Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, like they're off.
The only one I can see happening.
I think Jameis Winston is a possibility for them. Marcus Mariota, Watson? I think, is a possibility.
Because with Watson, like honestly, if the Texans have their backs against the wall, like I know they'll have a lot of suitors, but they'll be able to take less. I could see Chicago. I mean, if they'd have to make a big splash, but that seems more obvious than Russell.
I hope not, as a Packers fan.
Yeah, that would suck.
That's the same issue, though, as them having enough to give up.
I mean, they should have taken him, at 2 overall, or I guess they technically should have taken Mahomes. I don't buy into that because Deshaun Watson was at least talked about as being taken that high.
Yeah.
Mahomes was never talked about.
Come on, Zook. You know you would want the Bears to be decent so you can have a good rivalry. Like, you miss the Bears being good. You miss the Bears being good. Come on, Zook.
No,
if you had Bears and Packers,
smash
mouth teams in the NFC Championship,
28-0 on them at halftime on Sunday Night Football.
That's no fun. It sucks. Awesome. Like as a Cardinals fan, like it's fun to see the Cubs suck, but it's better when they're good and then we beat their ass. That's the best part.
I don't mind if they're decent. If they're decent, and then like we can just crush their hopes of making a playoff spot week 16 or 17 or whatever.
But like, what if you guys?
I didn't like it when Lance Briggs and Brian Urlacher are running all over the field like a bunch of crazy men, and Peanut Tillman is boxer punching the ball away from Donald Driver. Like that's not fun for me.
Yeah, but like, what if you guys are both like 12-4, 11-5, like going into the playoffs, chance to play each other, both fan bases at each other's throats. Like that's
that was
what
awesome.
I'm talking about.
The Packers beat Caleb Haney in relief of Jay Cutler in the NFC Championship game to go on to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
but it would have been, would have been devastating if they lost.
Yeah,
I would much rather the Bears go like 2-14 for eternity than be good. Wouldn't you rather, didn't when the Cubs win the World Series, didn't that just the whole 100 years thing, that was always what you had in the back of your pocket, and now it's just gone.
Well, it hurt me because
you can't really say shit.
I jinxed them. I jinxed the Indians. So I don't know if you heard the story, but my buddy's a huge Cubs fan, and we made a slap bet. And I think I've told this story on Brews before. And we said, all right, if the Indians win, I get 3 slaps on you. If the Cubs win, you can slap me 3 times. And this is 3 slaps any time in your life. So it could be when you're getting married, your firstborn, whatever. I mean, it could be any time. So
you're up there about to put the ring on Laura's finger and just wait.
Oh, I was waiting for it because it was game 5, and it was in Wrigley, and they were tied 2-2, I believe. Or no, it was 3-1, wasn't it? Whatever it was.
It was 3-1. It was 3-1.
It was okay, so they go up 3-1 after game 4 it was. And my buddy was in Chicago. He came back. He called me. We were talking about it. And he's like, man, this fucking sucks. This is the worst thing ever. The Indians are going to win. We're going to keep this damn streak going. Just blows. And I kind of said, yeah, man, I can't say I'm not happy because I am happy. But I said these words, Zook, and I'll never, ever forget it. I said, if the Cubs can somehow win this thing, it'll be the greatest comeback in World Series history. And son of a bitch, if they didn't come back and win it in fucking 7 games. I was watching that game 7. I had more nerves going on than I did in the David Freese game 6 in 2011. I wanted the Cubs to lose. So never have I wanted one team to lose so bad in my entire life. And it was just a roller coaster from the Cubs up for a while. Then you had, who was the guy? Rajah Davis hit the home run to tie it up. Then you had the rain delay. It was just wild.
The Red Sox breaking their curse was a million times worse. When the Yankees were up 3-0 in the ALCS, Red Sox win 4 straight. Then they go and win the freaking World Series.
Right?
And we kind of helped you. We didn't really help you that much.
No, not at all.
We didn't show up to the series, so we apologize. I apologize on behalf of the Cardinals for that.
That's why I can never root for the Cardinals ever in my lifetime.
Hate to see it. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I hope we get Yankees and Cardinals this year. Or, honestly, all 3 of our teams now are good. That's what's so cool about this. We get Arenado. We got one of the top offenses.
I know that, you know how I know the White Sox are good? Is because the Yankees fans are chirping White Sox now on the internet. And that's how I just know. I know because I know the White Sox are good because they didn't give 2 shits about the White Sox a couple years ago. And now they see that
White Sox Twitter all of a sudden showed up last year.
Hey, I've been a long-standing and long-suffering member of White Sox Twitter back to the John Danks days and the Gavin Floyd days, and I have long supported the pale hose on the interwebs.
I tell you what, Zook, if the Cardinals can't win it, if you're up against the Yankees in the ALCS, I will root for the White Sox. There we go. Period. I'll root for the White Sox.
Nobody likes
in
the evil
general,
empire
because I want to see Tony La Russa win another one. Why not? I mean, who doesn't want to see that old dinosaur win another one? I love Tony La Russa.
All the people
and you just reminded me
that he's your manager.
A racist drunk as your manager. Good luck.
Oh wow, and I will not take that. That's bullshit. I don't appreciate that. Yeah, at least I'm not. At least I don't yell at 20-year-old kids at minor league games. Or that was Brett Boone. Sorry, not
that was
Aaron
Brett Boone.
Yeah, we got
that was his brother
again.
Hey, he's still an asshole. Same family. Whatever.
Yeah,
still not nice.
It's fine. Aaron Boone's about to get fired at the end of the year anyway.
You don't think you're gonna win this year?
After Luis Robert cranks a 3-run walk-off jack.
No, they're still gonna win, and then they're still gonna fire him like they did with.
Do you think like a Jimmy Johnson situation in Dallas is gonna happen?
I hope so.
Man, that's quite imagine the content we'd have if it's Yankees, White Sox, and then like Cardinals, and who gives a fuck. But like you have me and Nick with the Cardinals, Zook's White Sox, Tolly's Yankees. We'd have some content. I mean, that's where we go full baseball for a little bit here in the offseason if that happens.
What would be cool is if we could somehow get to the Field of Dreams game.
God, I wish. I would love to be there so bad.
That'd be cool.
Maybe we could somehow rig some sort of apparatus to get us over the field, find some sort of wings or something and try to fly over the stadium.
Just jetpack over. I mean,
yeah,
that's just slightly illegal, I'm sure.
Unidentified flying object. It's
a bird. It's a plane. It's Zook with a jetpack. What the
center
fuck?
field?
That would be
trying
hilarious.
To get a good view on a Garrett Cole fastball.
Yeah.
Well, we do have one more topic before we wrap up the show, and that's the franchise tag. The salary cap's officially been set at $182.5 million, which is an 8% decrease from the previous salary cap. The deadline to tag players was yesterday, Tuesday, and I don't think there were too many surprises other than the Dak contract being signed. But the Bears give Allen Robinson the franchise tag. There were a couple safeties franchise tagged, which I don't think is incredibly uncommon because safeties don't make a lot of money. And so it's a lot easier to tag somebody. It's not as much of a cap dilemma when you do that as opposed to a quarterback that makes, close to, $30-40 million a year. So also some guys that didn't get tagged. Kenny Golladay is going to head to the open market for the Lions, TJ. They did decide not to tag him. Marvin Jones as well is headed to free agency. Hunter Henry didn't get it placed on him for the Chargers. The Packers didn't opt to place one on either Corey Linsley or Aaron Jones. Chris Godwin was tagged for the Bucs, which sent Lavonte David and Shaq Barrett into free agency. Although just today, the Bucs re-signed Lavonte David for a couple years, it looks like. So I don't know what happens to Shaq Barrett over there. He's already on his second team, started out in Denver, so it kind of feels like he's the odd man out, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, to be completely honest with you. It felt like Lavonte David was probably the one to let go there, but I don't really blame the management. That guy had suffered through so many years. He was the person I was probably most happy for that the Bucs won it. I mean, he's been a career Buccaneer, and it was an elite part of that defense and just a total badass, so underrated for so many years. And I don't blame them for wanting to keep him around for sure. So were there any important tags that I missed, Tolly? I know the Jets tagged Marcus May. Yeah. There were a couple other guys.
The Panthers tagged one of their offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Washington football team tagged their guard as well.
So
I think the bigger news was just all the veterans that got cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we bring up next. And if you listen to this show, we've been talking about it. The cuts are going to be pretty crazy. Kind of crazy to me. Let's lead off with a guy that didn't get cut, at least from the Packers. Preston Smith at $10.5 million is apparently not getting cut. So whatever.
That's a little bit wild.
That was a guy I thought was a lock to be cut, but apparently they're not going to cut him. Riley Reif was cut, left tackle of the Minnesota Vikings today, which I texted Colby and said, how do you feel about this? And he said he kind of saw it coming because they had asked him to take a pay cut last year. They basically said, take a pay cut or we're going to cut you. So for them to then cut him a year later, not entirely surprising. Malcolm Butler getting cut from the Titans, while it certainly makes a lot of sense, like that puts a quality like number 2 corner out there. I mean, I would love to have a Malcolm Butler type across from Jair Alexander up in Green Bay. Kyle Van Noy was also released.
That one was surprising. That guy signed a 4-year contract last year, plays 1 season, and then gets cut.
Which the contract last year when he signed it never made a whole lot of sense. Like just Patriot guy signing with an ex-Patriot coach.
But it was 4 years, $30 million. he was productive last year.
He took a pay cut. Like he got screwed. He took a pay cut, and then he gets cut in the end when they were supposed to help, I think, re-sign him. And then they ended up just having him take a pay cut, and then he gets released anyway.
Well,
kind of shitty.
I think at the end of the day, they probably just determined this guy's not worth $10 million.
Yeah. He kind of helped himself out here too, being a veteran guy, because they came to him and said, "Hey, we're gonna try to trade you, and if we can't trade you, we're gonna cut you." So he just went to the media and said, "Hey guys, I'm getting cut. Don't trade for me." And now he gets to pick where he wants to go.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
A couple others. Kevin Zeitler, the guard for the Giants, was released. He was making $12 million. I think Zeitler came over to the Giants from the Cleveland Browns. I believe he was a part of the Odell Beckham trade and is a pretty good offensive lineman. So the fact that they're clearing some space could mean that, I don't know, maybe the Saquon Barkley extension could be incoming this next upcoming season, trying to pave the way to get some weapons for Daniel Jones. So I don't understand making the offensive line worse when you're trying to, develop a young quarterback, but perhaps Zeitler just wasn't getting it done. I'm not up to date on how well he played in 2020. Kenny Vaccaro released by the Titans. Not entirely surprising there, but just some solid starters that I think are going to be on the market now. John Brown for Buffalo was released. Emmanuel Sanders, Quan Alexander, like all starting level players that we have been familiar with over the years. It just goes to show you. And one of the quickest things I had to learn when I started learning the league and the finance and the business side of it is how quick it ends for people, and how fast you're out of, like, when you're 30. Especially if you play defense and if you're a non-quarterback, that is basically like turning 40 for quarterbacks, or at least like turning like 37 for quarterbacks. Because when you're over 30, teams are so hesitant to give you that deal. And certain guys are productive well into their mid-30s. I think DeMario Davis is a good example of that for the Saints. And they had Thomas Davis, another linebacker for the Panthers, has had a long career. But some guys just fall off a cliff when they hit like 31, 32 years old. And so you're seeing now all the guys that they're clearing way for new additions and cap space for teams that are tight.
Well, I think the reason that John Brown got cut, I'm going to read you off some of these free agent wide receivers now. Kenny Golladay, Juju, Will Fuller, Curtis Samuel, Corey Davis, T.Y. Hilton, Nelson Aguilar, Marvin Jones, Sammy Watkins, Golden Tate. Now John Brown, Emmanuel Sanders. Those are all free agent wide receivers this year, and you have a deep class in the draft.
So are you thinking, Tolly, that they are releasing him to potentially put their sights on somebody in free agency?
I think so, because that cleared $8 million in cap space. Cutting Quentin Jefferson cleared another $6.5 million. So I think they're over $30 million in cap space now. So they can definitely make some moves.
Well, and the thing is, wide receivers can get pretty expensive, especially these free agent guys. I remember Sammy Watkins, when he went to the Chiefs, I think got like $16 million a year. And so these elite cream of the crop wide receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster, like Kenny Golladay, they're going to command some big time money. And usually the price is a little bit higher than what you're actually getting. Just because free agency, I don't want to say it's a sham, but you don't win Super Bowls in free agency. That is not how football works. Like, whereas in baseball, you can get like Garrett freaking Cole in free agency, and you get Manny Machado, you can get Bryce Harper in free agency. You don't do that because those guys just get tagged or they get extended. Like that's I think the power of the NFL and their formula. Like, it is team brand oriented. It's not player oriented. Yeah. You don't have, Kevin Durant playing on 9 different freaking teams. Like, it's so when these guys hit the market, they're oftentimes overpaid and they get these higher contracts because teams get so desperate and they say, oh, Juju Smith-Schuster, like, man, he had so much success in Pittsburgh. We're going to give him a huge deal. And then you pay him to go be the number one. And it just a lot of times doesn't work out because you're paying for more than what you're actually receiving. So
that's what, like Buffalo, if you can get like a Kenny Galladay or Marvin Jones to go opposite of Stephon Diggs, you have Cole Beasley in the slot, you have Gabe Davis, who had a really solid rookie year. And then even if you draft somebody else to take over for Cole Beasley, I mean, that offense is scary.
I heard a rumor that, or I read something that said one of the Lions, or it might have been both of them, Galladay and or Jones, are interested in joining Stafford in Los Angeles. So
I had heard that rumor also.
Imagine Galladay, either of them, but imagine Galladay especially along with Cooper Kupp and Woods. Holy shit. I mean,
how are the Rams going to sign one of those guys is my question.
Yeah.
Beats me.
Where are they pulling that money out of?
No, I don't know.
But it's certainly interesting. You're absolutely right, Tally, about the depth of the draft class. I've been starting to like dive more into like the draft class and the prospects. It's a really good year for wide receivers again. It's a really good year for linebackers too. Like there's just a ton of them. And on the wide receiver end, you have, I mean, several first round guys, in my opinion. Like you got Jamar Chase at the top of the class. You got the two Bama kids, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle right behind him. Then you got the kind of more mid to late first round guys like Rondale Moore, Rashad Bateman from Minnesota, Kadarius Toney from Florida. There's a lot of wide receivers that at the top of this class that could be really interesting. And I think while the Lions are letting both of their receivers go, it sounds like they're going to be in the market to take a wide receiver with their first pick. Whoever that is.
They better.
It sounds like that's going to be the play. Although I would not put it past Dan Campbell to take Kyle Pitts if he's available, or tackle, just because of how bad the line is.
Or a quarterback if somebody falls.
I mean, the only thing they would do is, I think what they should do is trade down, hoping that at 7 you'll have one of the, maybe Lance, or if Fields somehow falls, if you have one of those guys still sitting there, they have all the leverage and can trade back, 5, 6, 7 picks and still get a top receiver, in the draft, I think, at that point, hopefully in the 12, 13 range, and get a few more picks.
Excel file of the wideout prospects.
Yeah. There's a chance that they could get someone good still and drop back. But if they go tackle or linebacker this year, it's just, you don't need it. You need a receiver. It's obvious that you're in a rebuild mode. You're letting Galladay walk. We know the whole Stafford trade. They're in rebuild. But if you want to win at least a couple games this year, you need a fucking receiver. You don't have anybody. They have nobody. And Zook, I mean nobody. They have no receivers. So
they don't. I mean, they let their two hit the open market just now.
And Galladay, Amendola, I think, is gone too. I mean, it's.
You got Hawkinson at tight end.
There you go. TJ can run the whole offense. He'll be the best fantasy tight end of all time. He's the only guy they're going to have. I mean, some practice squad Joe Schmoes.
And I was telling you,
they did just sign
a former tight end coach, right? Like he's got to be absolutely.
They did just sign Tyrell Williams too, but that's a fill-in. But there you go. Tyrell Williams is our number one. That tells you a lot there. So
to talk you off an edge, TJ, if they do take a tackle, you are more likely to find a wide receiver late in the draft that turns out to be really good than you are a tackle. And that front set, I mean, look at what happened to the Chiefs. You have to have good line with depth if you're going to win anything.
Yeah, that's true. And they got Swift, so they probably want to build something more on offensive line and protect Goff as much as they can, obviously. And then at this point, too, with all the free agent wide receivers, I mean, they might take a shot at a veteran and just kind of fill in this year. And I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm okay with only winning 4 games this year. It's going to be 4 or 5. It's unfortunately the way it's going to go.
You don't think they can get to 10-6 in a playoff win?
With Jared Goff and no receivers? Probably not.
How long do you think it takes them to get to that point?
A 10-6 team?
10-6 in a playoff win.
It depends if they can get a quarterback next year.
Yeah, I mean that's the question. How long is Jared Goff our quarterback? That's the real question.
You almost need to root for them to suck this year.
I want them to suck for the next 5. If they suck for the next 5,
I haven't looked at the QB prospects in 2022 at all. I feel like it's actually going to be probably a dry year for them next year, to tell you the truth, because it feels like the last couple of years, you knew there were a couple more guys coming out. Like you knew Tua was going to be like 2 years away. And then you knew Lawrence was going to be the year after that. And then we've kind of filled in with some of these other, guys like Zach Wilson blows up.
And I don't know yet.
Blows up.
I don't want to judge the guy yet, but Dan Campbell screams to me a 2-year, 1-win guy, and he's gone. Like it just okay. They're going to win more than one. They have Jared Goff. Like they'll be.
You don't
okay,
like the bite. You don't like them biting kneecaps.
I don't know if I kind of like the guy. Like I think he's electric, but I just as a coach,
he is electric. That cannot be debated.
It just screams to me like. Just a terrible coach. I don't know.
I kind of thought it was a clown hire when it happened, but he is growing on me a little bit. And
he's funny. He's a good comedian. I don't know if he can coach, but
I think that like the press conference stuff is overrated. Like I remember when Matt LaFleur did his press conference, everybody freaked. He sounded in over his head. He couldn't talk to the media. He like at the beginning of the show, TJ, he was jittery. He like did not know what to say. He was fumbling over his words. He just did not look very in control. 13-3, 13-3, NFC Championship.
Yeah, I mean, okay, Zook, you have Aaron Rodgers. Like, I could fucking coach the Packers to 10 wins. Like, come on.
Hey, let's McCarthy couldn't for several years.
Yeah, well, that's Mike McCarthy. He's also destroying the Cowboys. Jerry's telling him. I thought
Joe Judge was a client. Like to use a different example, then I thought Joe Judge was. I thought that was going to be a train wreck. And to his credit, like. With all the suicides he's making the coaches run during practice or whatever, they looked like a team that had it together towards the end of the year. They were running the ball, they were playing defense. They looked like they had a little something, a little life. Like
and they lost Saquon. I mean, that's without Saquon too.
Yeah, Wayne Gallman was pounding it down people's fucking throat.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's all about necessarily your press conference. My issue with Dan Campbell is like defensive guy, right? Guy that's a first year head coach. To me, my head coach needs to either be, calling the defense, calling the offense, or building a juggernaut. One of those three things. Like you get the CEO types. I do think those are going by the wayside. Like you got John Harbaugh and like Pete Carroll's a little bit like this, but Pete Carroll was a defensive guy at least. And Dan Campbell has a side of the ball. But he's obviously not going to be calling the shots in terms of like the details of how they're going to run the defense, how they're going to run the offense. So he needs to. What's going to be really important for him, I think, is implementing a good staff. Like he has to have a good staff, or else that team's the hire is going to fail. But I think that you can hire the head coach. The head coach can be the culture implementer, which is like that's what Pete is. That's what John Harbaugh does for the Ravens. They have that consistent, steady hand. And I think that's a little underrated in today's game. Everybody wants, the offensive guru, but there's something to be said for like the Dan Campbell types that can like get you motivated and keep the energy up. And, there's definitely something to that. It's just, he's going to need a good staff to win. Like John Harbaugh has Greg Roman and he has Wink on defense, Wink Martindale. So, like, if those guys leave, they're not very good. And we've seen it over the years. Like, when he doesn't have good coordinators, the Ravens aren't good.
Yep.
So, that's, I think, going to be the thing for Dan Campbell. And, of course, the roster is absolute dog shit. Like, they have got to improve the roster and hit on some picks. So,
yeah, they got a lot of work to do. They've had a lot of work to do for years. And now you lost your only guy that made you excited about anything.
I'm telling you, though, so they pick, what do they pick? 8th overall again?
7th
overall. Yeah. I don't even know if he's going to be around to take, but if he's there, I would run the card in for Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida, even though they have Hawkinson.
So, do you honestly think
so good?
You think that? I think they're out of all these guys, I think at least Fields, Lance, and the 3 receivers, one of them has to be at 7, right? You would think.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's not enough picks to go around.
So you say, okay.
I think Jamar Chase is probably off the board.
Yeah.
I think Penei Sewell, either one of Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, the tackle out of Northwestern, who's been getting a lot of late love. I'd take Sewell. Like, I don't overthink it. Just take Sewell. But those 2 tackle prospects are really highly touted. You got obviously Lawrence 1. Feels like whether the Jets trade out or pick, it's Zach Wilson 2. Then what do the Dolphins do at 3?
Ja'Marr Chase.
Potentially Ja'Marr Chase, potentially Kyle Pitts. Like, let's just go down. Let's just do a quick little mock to get to the Lions pick. Let's say you go Trevor Lawrence. Let's say you go at 2, Zach Wilson. Let's say the Dolphins want to get some competition for Tua. Let's say that they go grab Justin Fields. I don't think that's going to happen. Let's say the Dolphins take Penei Sewell. Let's say at number 4, who picks 4?
I don't know. So they said the Falcons, they trade up though, right? They've been talking about trading up for Fields.
The Falcons pick 4. They're a potential team that that's going to they are one of the things that they're a team that's going to dictate how the draft goes, because did they take a quarterback? That could shift the entire draft.
They've been talking about taking a receiver too.
Did they take a receiver and try to just build the team?
Fuck.
Because Julio Jones is getting older. Do you try to take the next guy to already have when you get the next quarterback in a couple years? Do you try to re-up and make another run with Matt Ryan? I kind of think that's what you do if you're the Falcons. I think you chalk it up to maybe bad coaching, bad injury luck, and you take a receiver. So let's say then the Dolphins take Penei Sewell 3. Let's say the Falcons take Ja'Marr Chase 4. At 5, you got the Bengals. Let's say they take Rashawn Slater. They need a tackle or a wideout. They could go wide out, but you just drafted T. Higgins in the 2nd round last year. You got the slot guy, Tyler Boyd. He's good. So they need to protect Joe Burrow. Like, he can't tear an ACL every year. So I think that tackle's a no-brainer for them. You got the Eagles at 6, who I think would take a big, long look at either Kyle Pitts or a wideout. They're taking if Ja'Marr Chase is there, they're taking him. If Kyle Pitts is there, I think they'll take him, despite Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz.
They also need a lineman if one of those linemen fall to them.
Yeah, so I think they're not in the quarterback business anymore. I can say that with a reasonable degree of certainty.
What if Fields is there? That's been the big story, though. If Fields is available.
No, I don't think so. No way. I think the owner basically told him no. That was reported on earlier this week. They're basically out of the quarterback business. They want to build it around Jalen Hurts. They don't want to get themselves into a situation like they had this year, because then it's just a carousel of quarterbacks. Like, so now you get Jalen Hurts on the team, it's starting, and then let's say you draft Justin Fields. Well, where have we gone? We are running in circles.
Yeah.
Like, we're the second Jalen Hurts struggles, well, we want Justin Fields to be the quarterback, and then you do this again. So I think that the owner basically said, we're going with Jalen Hurts, and we're going to try to build around him. So I think that it's basically wide out all day.
They should honestly bring in Fitzy. They should bring in Fitzpatrick to be that backup. It would be a perfect scenario for them, I think, and he would get another chance. I love Fitzpatrick so much. He's going to get a good shot somewhere.
So that takes us to the Lions pick at 7, where I think you're basically going to have a pick between, like, Ja'Marr Chase is probably gone. I think Kyle Pitts is going to probably be gone too. But you could have your pick between Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle.
Which I think you got to take one of those. So I don't know why they would go with the Pitts guy. I mean, Hawkinson's decent tight end. Like, I'll
tell you why they go with the Pitts guy. To Kyle, TJ is a very good tight end. He's one of the better tight ends in the league. Kyle Pitts you cannot think of Kyle Pitts as a tight end. You think of Kyle Pitts as a weapon, a receiver, a pass catcher, because he, to me, and I've watched a decent amount on him, I think he's the best player in the draft. I think he's going to be a future Hall of Famer.
Zook, here's the thing, though. This is the same franchise that took Eric Ebron. This is the same franchise that took Eric Ebron top 10. And how'd that work?
Well, I'm not saying you gotta find a way to get him the ball, but Kyle Pitts is not Eric Ebron. Like, I don't know if you've watched Kyle Pitts play. The guy is an absolute freak of nature. He is too fast for safeties. He is too big for corners, and he's all of the above for linebackers. Like, he is basically unguardable. And so, like, if you can run 2 tight end, like, people need to, like, you have to think outside the box, like, when you are thinking about it, because you can't think of, well, we have TJ Hawkinson. Like, we don't need Kyle Pitts. Like, all right, what if I get TJ and Kyle on the field now? I can go 2 tight ends and I can run it down your throat, but you can't put your big defensive packages on the field, because these 2 guys will burn you in the passing game. So, like, similar to what the Eagles have done with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, like, this would be that on steroids. Like, this would be better than that.
That's what the Patriots did with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez.
That's the comparison right there. That is essentially what it would be. That's how good those two could be.
But when you have when Tyrell Williams is your number one receiver, you take a fucking receiver if they're there.
Yeah.
And if Waddle,
so here's the problem. You got Jalen Waddle, who's coming off a season-ending injury.
I want Devontae Smith though.
He's also 5'8". So if you take Devontae Smith weighs like 165 pounds. Like, yeah, he didn't get injured this year. He did win the Heisman, but is he going to hold up? Is he going to be durable in the NFL?
But how skinny is like AJ Green coming out of college? To me, it's like the same scenario. Like,
AJ Green's at least like 6'3".
Yeah, but I thought he's like very light too.
I don't mean to nitpick the players. Like, they're all really good, right? I'm just saying Kyle Pitts is just he's a different dude, and he's going to be really, really good in the league for a long time. He's just rare, I guess would be the best way to say it. It's a simple word. That's just the best way to describe him. He's rare. I have not seen it since I've been looking at like drafts, which has admittedly been like 3 or 4 or 5 years. But even going back, like I can't remember a tight end prospect that was as good coming out of college as him. Not in my lifetime. And we've had good tight ends. We've had, TJ got drafted incredibly high. Eric Ebron, like you mentioned, TJ drafted incredibly high. Vernon Davis was drafted super high in the top 10. So, but this guy's better than all of them, at least coming out of college. And you never know what's going to happen. But he has just some traits and some physical attributes that you can't teach. And so I'll be interested to see what he does this pro day, but he's a lock to go top 10, assuming he doesn't like fail his physical or fall out of bed.
Yeah.
So, but I think as a Lions fan, you got a lot to be optimistic about, because I think you're going to have your choice. I think one of those 4 quarterbacks is going to be there. It felt for a time like it was potentially going to be 4 quarterbacks in the top like 4 or 5 picks, but that's kind of calmed down. Now it feels like the Eagles aren't. To be honest, I know the Falcons are kind of slow playing it. The longer that goes on, and we'll see, we got a long way to go before the draft, but kind of feels like it's a little too early for them to truly replace Matty Ice, since they just replaced the coaching staff. Maybe the coaching staff wants to try to build the thing up to make another run with Matty Ice, or maybe the new coaching staff goes, we want to draft our guy. I think it all depends on how they feel about the quarterbacks that are there. But I think you're definitely going to have a chance at least one of Trey Lance or Justin Fields, and you're going to have a chance at one of, honestly, it does feel like Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts are not going to make it to 7. But you could potentially then take a Rashawn Slater if he falls, if their 2 tackles aren't taken in the top 6 picks.
Yeah.
And you're definitely, I think basically the first chance for Devontae Smith or Waddle to get drafted is to you at 7. I don't think there's any shot they come off the board before then.
Interesting. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll see. We'll see.
Got a little bit into the draft there, and we'll continue to do so, but I think that'll wrap it up for our show today. We are presented by Book It Sports. I did forget to mention that in the intro. You got to head over to Book It Sports. Get on the app. The users are growing by the day. I actually texted Nick the other day to try to figure it out. I said, Nick, I'm trying to make a freaking bet on the app, and it's not letting me post it. And he's like, do you have the latest version? Well, I thought I had the latest version, but it wasn't letting me post.
Obviously, you didn't then.
So I didn't. But I got it figured out. I took the White Sox against the Dodgers yesterday, and I'm getting it rolling into March Madness. So you got to go. You got to go download Book It. Get ready for March Madness. It's a good time to do it. You want to track all your action. So head on over to Book It Sports. And
talk
TJ,
about degenerate level going to spring training baseball.
Yeah. It's like it's not as bad as Korean League, but
I just want to put some action on the White Sox, Tolly. It feels good.
Feels good to get a dub. Good. So, yeah, Aces Wild, Columbia, Illinois, 208 North Main Street, Columbia. I don't know if you guys saw my Facebook feed today, but they got 2 more TVs, Zook. So now you got 3.
Looks awesome.
It looks awesome. They got 3 big screens now on the wall there. And St. Louis native Josh Fleming, they made a distinct TV for every time he pitches. He's going to be on a certain TV in Aces Wild. Pretty cool
Fleming
stuff.
Fleming
TV. Again,
friend of the show.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. So it looks great.
Is it fair to say that Aces Wild has a TV buying problem? Like, you know how there are some people that are shopaholics. There are some people that, just have problems with, certain aspects of retail. Is it fair to say that Aces Wild has a TV problem? By the end of 2021, will they have 10 TVs?
I hope so. I think there is no TV problem. I don't think you can have enough as a sports bar and gambling parlor. Right?
Hey, I'll tell you the truth. I agree. I'm just trying to throw it out there.
If you they have a new sound system coming too.
Yeah, they do. New sound system. They do have that. They're always looking to improve. I talked to Schlemmer, too, about adding a dartboard in there, getting a dart league going. I said I'd be in there every week because I fucking love playing darts. So we'll see if that happens. I've kind of been in his ear. I feel like I'm part owner. I'm like, hey, you should do this. Hey, you should do that,
He's like, buy a steak, bitch, or shut up.
Right. So the thing is, too, with, Aces Wild is it's a good place to go. You can gamble. They got 6 machines there now, giving out jackpots. Seems like every day. He's always putting stuff out on Facebook about it. So you can go over there. 208 North Main Street. Ice cold beer. Good times. Now 3 big screens on one side of the room. Another big screen on the other side. I think they got. Is it 6 total TVs over there now? I believe something like that. So he's got all the great package over there to watch games. You can live bet on your phone if you're on DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever the case may be. Proud sponsor, Brews on the Balcony, and From the 50, all of our great shows on this network. So we appreciate what Schlemmer's done, and again, get on over there, and hopefully we can have some events there when this COVID stuff's officially done. So
absolutely. So head on over to 208 North Main Street in Columbia, Illinois. Download Book It Sports and give us a voicemail or text in 904-990-3850. We would love to read some text over the air. So be sure to do that, 904-990-3850. And that'll do it for us here on the Midweek Review. Thank you so much for making us a part of your week, and we'll see you next time.